What is up, YouTube pimps? We're going to do a fun video today, and hopefully you guys can hear me because the wind just went from like 0 to 30 knots for some reason and then kind of chilled out. So hopefully it'll stay that way. I got most of the windows rolled up in the vehicle, so it shouldn't be bad. If I post it, that means I'm happy with it. We're going to have a discussion about 22 long rifle, but mostly we're going to target the myths that have been said about it. Okay, myths, and we're also going to talk about a legend of it and how that applies. Like, how does that matter when we look at 22 long rifle as a shit hit the fan cartridge? Because that's what this channel's about, guys. It's about a big nationwide SHTF catastrophe where everything changes and you're going to have to feed your family and you're probably going to have to do it the hard way. That's how it's going to be for most of us, okay? So we want to explore that with 22LR. And dudes, I have a whole bunch of additional content coming down the pipe for 22LR in the future. So if you're a fan, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video right now, and be a part of the conversation in this video. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Do you have any citable sources that prove me wrong or prove me right? I'd definitely be interested to see those down below because I'm a numbers guy, dudes, and I like to do my research. Speaking of numbers, because I should say this, I am a big fan of 22LR. If I look back on my life, I have more 5.56 NATO downrange than anything else, and second to that is going to be 22 long rifle. Thousands and thousands of rounds. I have killed a lot of animals, and I've eaten the large majority of them. I've butchered them and eaten them. Let me tell you guys a story real quick. I was 4 years old. My mom and dad took me and my infant brother out to a friend of his, this guy's ranch. We get out there, and my dad hands me his pellet rifle. And so I get out there. First thing I do, right, I grab it, I run outside. I'm like, I'm going to go kill something. And I'm cocking this thing. And I remember I had to put it between my legs and put the thing way up here to, like, cock it, you know, because I'm 4. And I load it, and I shoot this little blackbird off of a backhoe. I remember it was right on, like, one of the tracks for the backhoe, and just pow, whapped it, dead. I grab it, I run in the house, I'm all excited. I'm like, Mom, look, I killed a little blackbird. And she goes, oh, great, efficient in the field. Let me cook it for you. I have to eat it? Yes. She told me, if you kill something, you have to eat it. And I'm like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that was a rule. You know, it's the first thing I've ever killed. And she told me that she would let me off the hook that time, but if I ever killed anything else, I had to eat it. And that just stuck with me. For whatever reason, it stuck with me. So my use of 22 long rifle for a long time, guys, was killing stuff that I intended to consume. Now, I will say that I do kill things that I don't eat, but it's critters that are doing a lot of damage, you know, property damage and stuff like that. Do I enjoy it? Yeah. Sometimes there's some fun in it, you know, and some challenge. And so I enjoy it, and it helps keep the skills up. It helps to keep you quick on the shot and stuff like that. So I do enjoy those kinds of things. But throughout the course of my life, the massive majority of my hunting has been to eat critters. So I've killed a lot of animals with 22 long rifle. I'm definitely qualified to do this video. In addition to my use of this cartridge, I like to do my research. And those of you that follow me on TikTok, you know that I'm big into like terminal ballistics. I love to look at different loads and different BCs and all this kinds of stuff and see what's going to do what at what range, you know, windage wise, elevation wise, all that kinds of stuff. I'm just into it. All right. And so I've looked at a lot of additional data regarding 22LR in addition to my own personal experience. But let's get after it, dudes. Let's get after the first myth regarding 22 long rifle. And I've seen this statement made a lot of times on my TikTok in particular because I have way more subscribers on there. And that's that 22 long rifle is a non-lethal cartridge. A lot of people are saying this. Oh, it won't penetrate heavy clothing. Oh, it's not lethal. It won't kill you. Oh, I got shot with one once from 55 yards away and it barely broke the skin. These kinds of statements. Well, the reality is that it is absolutely a lethal cartridge. If you can get a 40 grain 22 LR going 1,000 feet per second, which is not hard to do at all, you can see 14 inches of penetration in ballistics gelatin. And anyone that's done any research regarding ballistics at all realizes that that is plenty to whap a two-legged predator. And it's also plenty to kill big game animals if you put the bullet right where it needs to go. And usually we're talking about headshots when it comes to big game animals. Okay? But 22 long rifle will absolutely whap you. It totally will. And the guy that's saying, oh, I got hit at 55 yards and it barely broke the skin. Either A, you got hit with a ricochet, or B, that thing had wet powder and only half of it went off. You know? There's a lot of reasons why that could happen. But that is not going to be the norm. As a matter of fact, I watched a video. Oh, I'll try and put it in the description if I can look it up in my history. But I watched a video where a dude was tucking a 22 LR in the back of his pants out on a range. And it went off and it shot him in the back of the knee and blew out the front of his calf. And he almost died from it. He almost died. Close range shot, obviously. But it blew an exit wound out the front of his calf that was a little, like, equal to a quarter or a little larger than a quarter, he said. He's bleeding all over the damn place. And what really was going to end up killing him was something about foot compartments, and if the blood was draining, and he might lose his leg and all this kinds of stuff, or get a super bad infection. So obviously it wasn't going to kill him immediately, but it also didn't hit any major veins or arteries. It didn't hit any bone. So it was basically a through and through on his leg, and his life was actually in danger. Now, I have seen 22 long rifle used where ribs have stopped it or deflected it and way slowed it down, like real ribs. So even larger bones are going to tend to have the same effect. There's just not a lot of energy there, guys. I've shot deer through the shoulders with 7.62 by 39, and it literally went through both shoulders and blew out the other side. You're not going to see anything like that with 22 long rifle. And there's also a lot of guys that have made statements that, oh, it bounces around in the body off of your bones. No, it doesn't. There's just not enough energy to keep it going. 14 inches of penetration, though, dudes. It's still enough to get work done. But how many hits is that going to take? We should talk about that real quick, because this channel is interested in results, right? Well, if you talk to a lot of combat vets about their experience overseas and actually having to whap people with 5.56 NATO, you're going to hear that 3 to 5 hits is what's necessary to take out a two-legged predator with that cartridge. So what does that mean for you when it comes to 22 long rifle, if that's what you have to use it for? If you find yourself in a situation where you have to use it for defensive use, how many hits is it going to take? Well, it's going to take more than that, generally speaking, right? If it takes 3 to 5 of 5.56 NATO, it's going to take 7 to 10 of 22 long rifle. So just keep that in mind, all right? Let's get on to the next myth. The second big myth with 22 long rifle is that it has been used in more murders than any other cartridge. And dudes, like I said, I like to back shit up if I'm going to say it. And I have spent quite a bit of time actually looking for a citable source that backs this statement. And I can't find anything. I've been all over the place. I've looked quite a bit to a point where there's just like nothing that's even kind of backing this statement up. I have, on the flip side, found a ton of people making this exact statement in a variety of different firearms, like forums, survivalist forums, but nobody has any citable data. And so that tells me that this is probably not true. And I'll tell you guys what, I'm plenty old enough to remember when there was no internet. I was an adult and there was no internet. All right. And if I go back to that time, I had heard this statement made before then. So I just think that this is something that someone started saying and people were believing it and they were spreading it around. As a matter of fact, it changed my opinion back in those days of what 22 long rifle was capable of, because there was no way to just get on Google and verify if it's legit information or not. Like, you would have to do your own testing, to find out. So I feel that that myth is just not true. Not to say that 22 long rifle hasn't put people in the ground. It obviously has done that. I've seen videos where crimes were committed, and that is actually how it went down. But it hasn't put more people in the ground than any other cartridge. That's just far-fetched in my opinion. The next myth of 22 long rifle is that it doesn't damage small game. I'm here to tell you with my aforementioned experience that that is absolute BS. So, anyone that's actually done any small game hunting knows that this statement is not true. Because the real trick here, guys, is not to hit a lot of bone when you're taking a shot on a small animal. I'll tell you that, all right? If you're taking them from the side, what you're going for is a headshot or a through and through right through the vitals, and you don't want to gut shot them. Tends to get pretty nasty on small animals really, really quick. If you hit a small animal in the shoulders or the hips or just any places where there's a good bit of bone, what that little projectile does, right? We've already established that it can do quite a bit of damage, despite the fact that people think it's non-lethal. It will hit those bones and it will turn them into shrapnel, and it will absolutely bloodshot and destroy a lot of meat, especially in the hips on a lot of small animals. Think about rabbits. That's where the majority of the meat is. Like half the meat on that animal is in the hips. It's in the rear. It's an ass, man. You know what I'm saying? Big bitty hose. But you don't want to damage that meat, okay? So you're going for a through and through in the upper vitals, or a headshot from the side or from the back. Wherever you can get a headshot from, that's going to work. Another thing that I should mention is that birds seem to be more fragile than mammals, even when it comes to using 22 long rifle on them. I don't know if it's because the bones are hollow or whatnot, but in my personal experience, shooting birds with 22 long rifle, you're going to tend to get a little more damage done than you would on mammals. So you want to be even more careful with that shot. The next myth is that 22 LR will bounce around in the skull. Guys, this is just not true. It's just not true. There's not enough energy to make that happen with this little cartridge and these little like light grain weight bullets. And if there was more energy, it's just going to blow out the other side. What happens when you shoot a skull with 22 LR is that it's going to go through the skull on one side, if you have enough energy to get that done, if you're close enough, right? And then it's going to go through that brain in a relatively straight line, and it's going to hit the other side of the skull. And depending on how much energy it has retained while going through the brain, that's going to determine whether or not it's going to stop at the inside of the skull or go through the other side. But it is not going to bounce around like a pinball in a pinball machine, dudes. That's not what happens, okay? And I've seen guys actually make the statement that they'd rather take a 9mm or a 45 ACP to the dome than a 22 LR because it bounces around in your brain. That's a ridiculous statement. There's just night and day differences between 9mm 45 ACP and 22 long rifle. The next myth, and it's unfortunate that I have to address this one, but I've had this common enough that I think I need to say something about it, is that 22 LR is going to be awesome for headshots on two-legged predators at 450 yards. And I've even heard ranges beyond that. I've heard out to like 660 yards. Somebody somewhere watched like a Garand Thumb video or something where he shot it through some plywood And it went through it at these ranges, and they're like, yeah, 22 LR, I can do it with my 22 LR. Well, if you can do it, like if you've invested the money in a 22 rifle setup that's going to allow you to make those hits at that range, and you can do it consistently in all conditions, which you probably can't. Is that the tool for that job? It's not the tool for that job. It's just not, man. It's so much easier to get like somebody trained up on making shots at that distance on, let's say, just about anything else. 5.56 NATO, like a flat shooting cartridge that doesn't recoil much, than 22 LR. It makes way more sense to go with something better, dudes, especially if you're planning on using an SHTF. I'll tell you what, how many hours did it take you, and how many ducats did it take you to be able to get your little 22 long rifle to a point where you can hit a 6-inch plate at 450 yards in all conditions? How much time did it take you? How many rounds downrange? You know what? Pick any 14-year-old girl out there and give me a 5.56 AR with an optic on it, and I'll have her doing it in no time. So if you decide to go on a shit hit the fan with this plan that you're going to be whapping people at 450 yards with headshots, you're probably going to end up getting smoked by a 14-year-old girl with an AR. It's just a bad idea, guys. Like, go out, spend the money on a platform and a cartridge that's going to be designed to get that job done, and use that. That's really what you want to do. So I'm not going to say that this is actually a myth. I know it can be done, but it's totally not ideal for that. It's totally not ideal. And we want to be successful, right? That's the goal here, is to be efficient and be successful through shit at the fan. So get the right tool for the job. The next one we want to talk about, and here's the thing. You'll notice I didn't say that this is a myth, because you're going to have to decide if it's a myth for you. And this is the statement that 22 long rifle is the best shit hit the fan cartridge. I hear it all the time, guys. I hear it all the time that it is the best. And usually people are saying this because they're planning on being out there hunting small game every single day to feed themselves and their families. Well, right there, to me, that makes it not so appealing. The time you're going to spend out there, the massive number of reports out there. And I know a lot of guys are like, oh, you can kill deer with it. Well, you can, but now the hunting pressure's changed. Can you get close enough to deer anymore? Can you shoot them out the window of your truck anymore? Can you shoot them out the window of your shitter? You know, are you even in your shitter? Or are you bugged out somewhere and living in some fucking hole with bugs and shit crawling all over you every night because you didn't prepare correctly or plan correctly? You know, like, is this going to get the work done you think it's going to get done? Is it going to be as efficient as you think it's going to be? You know, you're going to have to look at your own situation, dudes, because everyone's situation is different. Where I live out here, I'll tell you what, there's all kinds of small game. There is. But 22 long rifle is not the way to get it done, largely. I'm going to have more success with snares and traps. And that's way smarter. It's a better investment in my time. There's some other reasons that people say this too. And a lot of that has to do with the ammunition weight, right? The size of a cartridge, the cost of it. You know, that's one of the big reasons a lot of people say, oh, 22 LR, like for shit advanced, the ultimate. Another reason people say this, and I got to be honest with you guys, is that I think a lot of people can't afford a better option, or they're not willing to budget for a better option. And so they've heard all these other myths about 22 LR, and they're like, I'm just going to go with that. That'll be great, man. Like, I'm going to rock 22 LR and shit at the fan, like, as my primary. You know? Let's talk about it, though. Ammo weight. You're looking with 40 grainers at 113 cartridges per pound. You know, a lot of guys are like, oh, I'm going to hump 10,000 rounds out the field. No, you're not. You're not doing that shit. It's like 180 something pounds. Okay? We got to be realistic. The space of it, yeah, it doesn't take up much space. But 22 mag is better. It's far better, and it weighs nearly the same exact thing, you know. Let's compare it to 5.56 NATO. 4 grams of weight for 22 long rifle, 12 grams for a 5.56. But a 5.56 is going to get way more done. You can kill deer at a good distance. I know. You can shoot a 6-inch plate at 450 yards with your 22 LR. But how much energy do you have when it gets there? How much energy? I can't even look up the number, guys. I've tried to look it up. Was it 23 foot-pounds? 26? That's the closest estimate I could get to that. It might not even be that. It might be less than that. There's just not much energy. I mean, you might smack a deer in the head, but is it going to kill it 100% of the time? It's not, right? It's not. Let's keep it real, man. 5.56 is going to be way more efficient at getting that done. It weighs 3 times as much, but you can put a lot more meat on the table with one pull of the trigger, and snares don't weigh shit. Go watch my video, 22 long rifle versus snares. It'll probably make the point for you. Reliability with 22 LR. This is a place where, like me personally, I have semi-autos and revolvers. Okay. Do I have other stuff? No. I have semi-automatics and revolvers when it comes to 22 LR. I've had plenty of misfires, dudes. Plenty. You know, just failure to ignite. But I was thinking about it. That's always been in my semi-automatic platforms. If you shoot a double action 22 revolver, you're going to notice there is a shit ton of trigger pull in double action. That's because it takes a lot of force to reliably ignite 22 LR primers. Those rimfires, okay? Single action's a different story, right? It's just, you're just cocking it and pulling the trigger. Super light trigger pull, very, very accurate. As a matter of fact, I have a Ruger single 6 in 22 LR that I love to hunt small game with, so I've done a ton of that. Never had a misfire with that revolver. So that's something to consider. You know, it's not necessarily unreliable, the cartridge itself being a rimfire, but it certainly can be. There's a lot of guys out there that say that they've never had a rim, like a failure to ignite out of like CCIs. I don't know. I haven't shot a ton of CCIs, I'll be honest with you. I prefer to shoot the cheaper stuff because I'm like, performance versus the cost. I'm not using it for self-defense. Does it really matter? Like, if I was using it for self-defense, I'd probably go that route. But I'd also probably just go with like 9mm or something bigger and better and more effective. You know what I mean? So is 22 the best shit hit the fan cartridge? Is it really? Are there better ways to put meat on the table for your family? Are there better ways to prep than loading yourself up with 10,000 rounds of 22 and hoping you can make it to the woods with it? There is, right, guys? There is. I want to say that for me personally, 22 long rifle is not the best cartridge for shit hit the fan, given my situation. But I will tell you that if my family of 4 had to bug out, if it was just us, that we would be bringing a firearm chambered in 22 long rifle with us. And that's because of just the availability of it. If I ended up running dry with everything else, it probably wouldn't be that hard to find 22 LR. And you know what? I can pretty much guarantee you that in any one of my vehicles, if you get out there and start looking through the floorboards, you're going to find some 22. Okay? Lastly, we're going to talk about the legend of Bella Twin. A lot of you guys know this story because it always pops up on any video I do about 22 LR. And this is a Cree woman who was a grandmother at the time. I'm going to say she was 63. This was back in 1953. She was out hunting with somebody else. I can't remember if it was her sister or a daughter or something like that. And she was a trapper, very experienced hunter and trapper. Okay. And I'm sure she had lived her life doing it if she's still doing it at 63 years old. And there she was out there, and somehow a grizzly bear, a big-ass grizzly bear, got onto their scent and was following them. And there's some inconsistencies with the story depending on where you read it. And there's even some people that doubt that it really happened. Let's keep going with it, though. Basically, the bear was very close. We're talking yards away and sniffing around and looking for them. And she says that she waited till she had a good shot on it. Went for a brain shot. She knew where the weakest part of the skull was. And it hit the ground instantly with a single shot bolt action .22 rifle. Literally had the forestock like duct taped onto it. And then she just kept putting rounds in the brain. And I think she had mentioned something about her dad telling her that's how you do it if you're in this situation. So she followed his example. And that bear never got up. And you can find pictures of the skull with a whole bunch of holes in the back of it. You know, right back here in the weak part of the skull. And so here's the takeaway from this, right? Like, do we need to doubt the claims regarding this legendary occurrence with 22 LR? I don't think that we need to. I don't think it matters. I think that people using this as their example to justify why they want to take 22 LR as their main and to shit at the fan aren't thinking clearly about this. Just because somebody has killed a grizzly bear with it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to do that. It absolutely does not mean that. As a matter of fact, probably 99% of the people that run into a grizzly bear and are only armed with a 22 LR and it wants to eat you, it's going to eat you. Okay? You're going to shoot it, you're going to piss it off, it's going to eat you. That's how it's going to go 99% of the time. Most people aren't going to be experienced enough and cool-headed enough to make that shot on an animal that's right there that you can smell. Because bears stink, man. They freaking stink. Most people are going to be busy shitting their pants and giving away their freaking position with all the shaking they're doing in that same situation. So I don't think that just because Bella Twin got it done, I don't think that justifies arming yourself with a 22 LR to deal with every situation and shit at the fan. Okay? I think there's smarter ways to get it done. Do you think Bella Twin would have been better off with, say, a 30-30? Damn right. Damn right. Then she would have shot it once and known it was dead, and she wouldn't have had to keep putting rounds into its brain. You know, there's a lot of things she could... A single shot 12 gauge with a slug in it. You think she'd have been better off with that? Damn right. She'd have been better off with effectively anything. Anything, guys. With the exception of like 22 shorts. Okay? And 22 caps. You guys get my point. Okay? So awesome legend, cool story. Not justification for making 22 LR your main and shit hit the fan. I think we're going to wrap it right there, dudes. I've had a long day and been doing a lot of talking. I'm done, man. My voice is about freaking shot. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. We just want to keep it real, right, pimps? We want to keep it real. So comments down below. What do you guys think? Where are you at with it? Does anyone have any data that contradicts anything that I've said in the video? Where are you guys at with it? What would you like to see more of when it comes to 22 LR? I actually almost did a video where I was screenshotting all these ridiculous comments off of my TikTok and was going to go through and just like flame everybody for 20 minutes. I don't know if you guys would be interested in that. But let me know what you guys would like to see. Like the video, share it with a 22 fan or someone that hates 22 so they can understand it's actually something that is dangerous. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and check out my Patreon link in the description if you like what I'm doing and you want to help support us and help us get to the next level with equipment and all that kinds of stuff. It'd be much appreciated. I'll see you guys in the next video.